guys, take a bow.
On behalf of the committee, I want to thank you all for coming, enduring this 90-degree temperature, just a flavor of what our families had to endure at that time. Daryl had mentioned in the beginning that the pilgrimage is a variety of things. Immediately following this is the interfaith service at the monument. It will be led by the procession. But at Lone Pine High School, we have Manzanar at dusk. It doesn't say that in the program. We're getting, we're volunteer guys. Look in the program, it says Manzanar After Dark. It used to be called Manzanar After Dark. It's now Manzanar at Dusk. Starts at 5 o'clock. It is organized by the youth, if I can use that term. Hank talked about the Nisei and how strong they were, and man, try and climb Mount Whitney once. My brother did it 10 times. So it is organized by the Nikkei students, young people, from UC San Diego, UCLA, Cal State University Long Beach, Cal Poly Pomona. These are young people organizing this program. We encourage you to attend. It's at Lone Pine High School, and it is at 5 o'clock. Gan Matsuda is our point person for that, so if I don't get this in, he'd kick my butt. So we want to thank you for coming. Warren talked about preservation. One of the aspects of preservation are preserving the historic sites. The other are oral histories. The other are films. Visual communications, communicating through film, is extremely important. An issue that has plagued our community for many years has been the issue of the no-no boys, as it was called, or those that refused to answer yes to the questions that were posed by the Department of Justice and WRA. Tule Lake is a infamous camp. Brian Maeda, where's Brian? Brian Maeda, filmmaker. Brian Maeda is making a movie. He needs extras. He wants actors. If you have any talent, you have any relationship to Tule Lake, if you want to preserve democracy and be in a movie, see Brian Maeda for We Said No No. There's an ad in the program. We are the fiscal sponsors. I don't know squat about filmmaking, but we do write grants, and we make sure that people who do can actually tell this story more effectively. Warren talked about another pilgrimage that had occurred prior to 1969, on that cold December day, when Warren and my mother and a few hundred other folks came up here, and that was led by Reverend Wakahiro Reverend Maeda, following the tradition of Reverend Nagatomi. I believe Mark Maeda is here today. I believe the Maeda family is here. Is that true? Yes. Can you please stand? Mark and family, if you don't mind, can you please stand so that we can recognize you? There they are in the back. We thank them. We thank them. This year marks the 25th anniversary of the passage of the Civil Liberties Act of 1988. 46 years after our community, our families were forcibly removed from their homes, their schools, and denied the most basic constitutional rights. We celebrate this tremendous victory. We are proud that we won this tremendous victory, but it's important to remember that power cedes nothing without a demand. Look on the cover of your program if you have it, and there is a quote from one of our country's most famous abolitionists, activists, community organizers, Frederick Douglass. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It took 46 years of struggle to achieve an apology and a modicum of compensation. It is not backroom dealings or negotiations by politicians that make history. It is the actions of ordinary people that help bend the arc of history towards justice. Whether it is the refusal of an African-American woman to give up her seat on a bus, or a Japanese-American man to refuse induction into our military until he and his family were released from behind barbed wire and their constitutional rights restored. This is how history is made. And we come here today to pay our respects and to acknowledge the contributions of so many. But we're also here today to say that this is not over. Our community, our families suffered racial and religious persecution. They were held without charges, without due process. We acknowledge that this was wrong. If it was wrong then, it is wrong now. Indefinite detention that Karen spoke about, the right of our government to hold someone without charges exists today as part of the NDAA. There are those calling for American citizens and others to be labeled enemy combatants and to be denied constitutional rights. You'd think the experience of the Nikkei community and the case of Fred Korematsu should serve as a strong reminder that the denial of constitutional rights to anyone never ends well. The denial of human and civil rights to anyone for who they are, what they believe, who they love, where they come from, how they got here, is wrong. There is no middle ground. 71 years ago, our government labeled our community enemy aliens, an enemy race, and that military necessity demanded that we be incarcerated in concentration camps. Does any of this sound familiar? And while it was redressed by the Civil Liberties Act, it leaves us with a responsibility nonetheless. In fact, it leaves us with a duty to ensure that all people enjoy the protections guaranteed by our Constitution. We ask you to remember, but more importantly, we ask you to stand with us to make sure that this never happens again to anyone. This is why we are here, and this is why we will be back. Thank you.
Here's Embrey, ladies and gentlemen. If you young people are looking for a cause, looking for some meaning, looking for some importance, well, when you have time, check us out. We'll not just put you to work, we'll engage you. Maybe you could get some credit. Maybe you can intern with us. You know, it's very clear to us that we miss the Issei. It's very clear to us that the Nisei generation is getting much, much older than we'd want them to be. The Sansei, my goodness, so many have retired. People are getting replaced hips and knees. And they're Sansei? Oh my goodness. And what comes up after that? Well, fortunately, there's a little piece in the program about the concerned Yonsei, that's fourth generation. And what comes after that? Well, that's up to you. That's up to us to help it along, to ask you to join us. All right. Now we have something which is called the roll call of the camps. There were many camps out there. There are many other facilities where people were kept. Our grandfather was kept by the FBI originally, and
now, believe it or not,
he was
Monica
released
is
in bad
a quarter
shape.
Japanese.
And Yonsei.
And Yonsei. And you speak Japanese too?
少しだけですけど。
Hi! Amazing! Say something else.
皆さん聞いてくれてありがとうございます。
Oh. I bow to you because I know Espanol. And along those lines, LA Academy Middle School, where are you? All right. Yeah. Represent Los Angeles. We're glad you guys made it up here. We're going to do the roll call of the camps, and our banner carriers are going to come out, and each banner represents a camp. Could be a little bit different, like Crystal City down in Texas. And also we're going to remember our veterans of the 442, the 100th, and the MIS.
Amache, Colorado, 7,318.
Carried by John Mizuki from Bridging Communities of Little Tokyo.
Crystal City, Texas, 3,000 Japanese Americans and 2,206 Japanese Latin Americans.
Carried by Brandon Miano, whose grandfather was at Crystal City.
Gila River, Arizona, 13,348.
Carried by Dr. Donald Hatta, Cal State Dominguez Hills.
Heart Mountain, Wyoming, 10,787.
Carried by David Fujioka of Los Angeles, whose father, Dick, was up there at Hard Mountain.
Jerome, Arkansas, 8,497.
Carried by Kanji Sahara and Tomoko Brooks of the Manzanar Committee.
Manzanar, California, 10,046.
Carried by Brian Maeda, born here in Manzanar, and Pat Sakamoto, our t-shirt designer, also born here at Manzanar.
Tucson, Arizona, 17,814.
They called it roastin' postin' because it was hot down there. Mary would remember. Mary Higuchi.
Minidoka, Idaho, 9,397.
Carried by Paul Lucia of Boise State and the Owens Valley.
Rower, Arkansas, 8,475.
Carried by Kanji Sahara of the Manzanar Committee.
Topaz, Utah, 8,130.
Carried by Zainab Chaudhry. Thank you, Zainab.
Tule Lake, California, 18,789.
Carried by Nancy Oda and Masako Nishi.
The 442nd Regiment Combat Team and the 100th Battalion Military Intelligence Service.
Carried by a Korean War veteran, Bill Shishima. If you know this song, sing along with us, guys. Teeny anytime.
Many roads must a man walk down before you come. Yes, and how many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? How many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? Sing with us. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many years can a mountain exist before it's washed to the sea? How many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Yes, and how many times can a man turn his head, pretending he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
If you'd like to start moving toward the interfaith service, please feel free. Keep drinking your water. Hang around. We're going to be doing Ondo in the desert, dancing in the desert after the service. How many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? Yes, and how many years must one man have before he can hear people cry? Yes, and how many deaths will it take to be known that to
blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. The answer, my friend, is blowing